Part 3. Xion, 7 days. How many days had it been since he was last summoned to the round room? Roxas sat in his usual seat, waiting for Xemnas' arrival. Half of the other 12 seats were empty. Axel's arms were folded sullenly. Xion wasn't here yet. It occurred to Roxas that there was no seat for Xion. Maybe she would take one of the empty ones. Whose would she inherit? The air trembled, and Xemnas appeared. But Xion still isn't here, Roxas thought. Xemnas was already speaking. Xion is gone. Roxas stared at him in shock. The other members of the organization looked startled as well. But what happened to Xion? What? Whoa, time out. Demyx hunched his shoulders. You mean like she blew the coop? Preposterous, said Xaldin. What would drive her to choose her own demise? Xion would never desert. She must have some other reason. Or what if she met the imposter in the organization cloak again and something happened to her? What then? The thoughts spun in Roxas's mind, dizzying. Xemnas interrupted them. No one is to go looking for Xion. Why not? Roxas was immediately on the defensive. But why wouldn't they want to find Xion? Xemnas briefly glanced at him, but offered no answers. Saïx spoke instead. Your friend will be left alone. Or would you rather we find some punishment? I'd rather you get her back, Roxas shouted. And why would we do that? Saïx challenged. Roxas didn't know how to answer that cold, flat question. He just wanted things to keep being the way they were, but Saïx wouldn't understand that. As Roxas hesitated, Xemnas turned to him slowly, almost admonishing. All will be revealed when the time comes. Axel finally stopped sulking with his arms crossed and looked up. Which means, if the time doesn't come, things can stay as they are. Saïx glared at him. Lord Xemnas has spoken. Obey or face your end. After Saïx's warning on his behalf, Xemnas vanished from the room. The others followed suit. Soon, only Roxas and Axel remained. Axel? Time to get to work. Roxas tried to bring up the question of Xion, but Axel promptly cut him off and disappeared in a swirl of darkness. Why did the others think this was okay? Xion had been out of sorts for a while now, but now that he thought about it, so had Axel. Roxas was starting to suspect everyone else knew something about Xion that he didn't. He slumped, staring at the middle of the floor. That was where he'd first seen Xion. He tried to remember the look in her eyes back then, but he couldn't. It felt like so long ago. Today makes 256 days since I joined Organization 13. I know because I just counted today, and Xion came on my 7th day, so it must be 249 for her. Roxas took a breath and let it out in a sigh before he created a portal back to his room. Axel must have done the same. Chapter 1. Island of Memories. The White Room here reminded him of Castle Oblivion, Riku thought as he settled into the chair. This was no castle at all, but a place outside Twilight Town known as the Haunted Mansion. Across the table sat a girl with flaxen hair. Her name was Naminé, and the name of the dark-haired sleeping girl was Xion. The two had one other thing in common besides their faces. They had both worked with Organization 13. I wasn't sure I'd see you again, said Naminé. You made me a promise, Riku said expectantly. To look after Sora. I remember. Naminé's gaze dropped, falling on her sketchbook. Her voice was barely above a whisper. I'm sorry. I'm not sure I've kept that promise very well. What happened? She couldn't meet Riku's eyes. Some of Sora's memories are missing. Look after Sora. That was what Riku had asked her to do months ago in Castle Oblivion, and she'd promised she would, to undo what had happened to Sora in Castle Oblivion, take apart his rearranged memories and line the pieces up again. It was a special task, one that only a memory witch like Naminé could undertake. Memories don't disappear. She had explained to Riku it would take time to put them in order, but Sora would go back to the way he was. How could that be? Riku demanded. What would happen to Sora if he didn't have all his memories? They're escaping through Sora's nobody into a third person, Naminé murmured, as if to herself, and then she finally looked up at Riku. Her voice rose as she laid out the problem. And now they're starting to become a part of her. Her. Xion. At the moment, Xion was asleep somewhere else. They didn't know yet whether she'd fainted due to the influx of Sora's memories. You mean you can't get the memories back out? Said Riku. If they're still separate, I think I can. Namine looked down again. But if they join with her memories, things get a lot more complicated. I would need to untangle her memory before I could finish Sora's. What should have taken months might take years. Diz would be furious. She was staring at the drawing in her sketchbook. Riku couldn't quite see it. So what's the solution? He asked. If I just try to jump in and rearrange her memory, then I risk Sora waking up to find that nobody remembers him anymore. I can't do that to him. There are false memories from Castle Oblivion, Sora's own memories, and other memories all tangled inside her. I'm losing track of which ones are real. Their first priority was to help Sora awaken intact, but they might have to sacrifice everything else in the process. Was there really no other way? Must two others with their own memories and personalities be entirely lost for Sora's sake? Diz would say that nobody's had no identity, but having seen Shionne's face, Namine didn't want to condemn her to such a fate. Either way, it's too late, she went on. We'll have to delay Sora's awakening significantly. I never imagined Sora's nobody and the other one would fight so hard to be their own people. Unfortunately, the only real solution is for them both to go away. She let Riku see her sketchbook. The drawing depicted 3 figures in organization cloaks. That red-haired man that had just been in Castle Oblivion the other day. The blonde boy was Sora's nobody, the one Riku had yet to meet, and the girl with black hair was Shionne. Did you know her face was blank at first? Namine said. Only now you can see it. Riku was about to ask what that meant when she continued. That proves some of Sora's memories are inside her. Sora's memories, Sora's nobody's memories, and her memories. They're all a jumbled mess now, and to put them back into one, I'm afraid there's no other way. Namine trailed off. At this point, they were out of options. Still... Alright then. Riku stood and left the room without another word. She didn't know when she'd fainted, but she woke up somewhere very quiet. Quiet and somehow lonely. Shionne sat up and shook her head, though not too hard. No one was with her. I think... Oh, that's right. I fainted in Castle Oblivion, where I learned what I am. What I truly am. I was never me. I was no one at all. But who does that make me now? And then, Shionne knew where she was. She remembered. This was Hollow Bastion, the world where Sora had to fight his best friend, and this little room was where Riku had lived while under Maleficent's sway. I remember it all. I remember what happened that day when I first came here. Riku, Sora, everything. Shionne climbed out of the bed and left the room. Hey, so where should I go now, do you think? Day number 257. 2 days since Shionne went missing. Day number 258. 3 days since Shionne went missing. He felt like he had to do something, but he had no idea what. Roxas sat on the tower ledge, hugging his knees. He hadn't brought any ice cream today. Axel was not here. Maybe Axel was avoiding him. Roxas didn't know why he would, but if he wasn't coming to meet him at a time like this, there was only one explanation. I didn't hear anything about Shionne leaving the organization. Maybe she confided in Axel? I should ask him about it, but I'm afraid to. I can't even get up the courage to go to his room. Why am I so scared to talk to my friend? The days rolled by and Roxas still didn't know what to do. It was his 262nd day. Shionne had been missing for a week. The haze never lifted. It was all he could do to count the days. After completing a mission, he could barely recall anything from it. He felt so detached. His thoughts ran in circles, and his nights were restless with dreaming. Though, of course, he couldn't remember anything once he woke up, and the dreams weren't all he was forgetting, he knew. His waking experiences were going right out of his head, too. There was probably something wrong with him, but what? Shionne was gone, and he couldn't talk to Axel. Without them, he was lost. He had such vivid dreams, and the lines between dreams and reality were starting to blur. Sometimes he got the feeling that maybe everything was a dream. Did he feel spacey all the time because he didn't sleep well? Or was he not sleeping well because he spent all day vacantly going through the motions? He was so tired, even on missions. No, not tired exactly. More like there was a thick fog over his mind, like he was stuck in a hazy twilight. In the round room sat the usual 3. Xemnas, Xigbar, and Ceyx.
While Xion is gone, we must further reinforce Roxas's memories,
said Xemnas.
Preparations are already complete, sir,
Ceyx replied. Xigbar snorted.
Hey, how do you see Xion? I don't understand what you're asking.
The words were evasive, but as long as the intent behind them was clear, that was enough, in Ceyx's opinion. Xigbar only smirked and turned to Xemnas.
That works for me. What about you?
Xemnas stared back.
Just wondering if you ever see our poppet like I do,
Xigbar said with a shrug. Xemnas' answer was a burst of laughter. Ceyx wasn't sure if that meant yes or no.
Watch Roxas. Don't take your eyes off him.
With that, Xemnas vanished.
Well, good luck with that,
Xigbar remarked to Ceyx before disappearing. But what had Xigbar meant before? Riku trailed Xion as she drifted aimlessly through world after world, and eventually she came to an achingly familiar place. He felt his heartbeat quicken just a little as the salt air filled his nose, the sound of the waves, the blue sea, the blue sky. A year ago, he'd abandoned this place. He didn't imagine coming home like this, without even preparing himself for it. Xion meandered along the water's edge, where the waves lapped. Riku turned his gaze on the horizon. This beach was his home. Destiny Islands.
You destroyed your home.
Zexian's accusation from Castle Oblivion echoed in the back of his mind. Riku had been home once, if the fake Destiny Islands counted. He'd met Wakka and Selphie and Tidus here, Kairi too, of course, and Naminé, but none of them were real, only phantoms made of his memories. His head throbbed slightly, and he rubbed his temples. As if she noticed someone was there, Xion turned, and when he saw her face, a pain shot through his head. The wave at Xion's feet receded, revealing a seashell there on the wet sand, a thalassa shell. So even if one of us gets lost, we'll make it back here, safe and sound. It was a good luck charm, to protect them on their journey. Xion picked up the seashell. Then she sensed someone else and turned. Roxas! She yelped quietly. She took a step toward the third person, then hesitated and hid behind a rock. A boy wearing the same black cloak had emerged on the seashore. Roxas, Sora's nobody. Riku peered at him, but he couldn't quite tell from here how closely he resembled Sora. Roxas picked up the seashell Xion had dropped. She let out a muffled cry and clutched at her head. Xion? As if in slow motion, she collapsed to the sand. Riku instantly ran to her and scooped her up. I woke him up when I called to him. Or was I the one who awoke? That girl used to sit here at the edge of the island. I came because I remembered talking to someone here too. But I don't understand. Was I the boy? Or was that someone else? Who was I? I want to sit on the edge of the island, the three of us together, and watch the sun sinking into the sea. We promised we'd go to the beach. Don't forget, okay, Roxas? His mission today was recon in another world, a place he'd never been, a world he'd never seen. Usually he didn't mind exploring unfamiliar places, but now he wasn't sure about that either. He stepped out of the corridors of darkness, squinting at the world that opened up before him. A shining blue ocean, a clear, bright sky. This place was called Destiny Islands. It feels strange here somehow, Roxas thought as he walked along the wet sand where the waves rushed in and out. His toe hit something, a seashell. It looked like the ones Xion had brought him. Had she been here too? The beach. Maybe this was the one Xion was talking about when they said they should all go together. Then he saw a figure on the bridge connecting to a little islet off to his left. A figure in black. A black cloak. Xion? Roxas took off at a run, calling her name across the sand. Xion! Her hood was still up. Xion turned and pushed it back, revealing Zexian. But how? Hadn't he been terminated? Why was he here? Surely you knew this would happen. Why would I know that? Demanded another voice. Roxas turned to see an unfamiliar silver-haired boy. Zexian was talking to him. You've been to a number of worlds in your memory before this one, and in those worlds you met only dark beings. Roxas's head ached so fiercely he wondered if it would shatter. The silver-haired boy glared at Zexian. That's all that's left in your heart, dark memories, said Zexian. Your memories of home are gone. That's a lie! I remember everyone from the islands, the other boy cried. They're my best friends. No, who was that? Who shouted just now?
Was it me or Shion? And who cast aside those friends? Asked Zexion. I'd never abandon my friends. Have you forgotten what you yourself have done? No, I didn't forget. You destroyed your home. I did not.
But he didn't know. Maybe he had.
My home. Where am I from? Do I have a home?
The waves sounded so loud, his head hurt. Is that you, Riku? Namine murmured as she gazed up at the pod where Sora slept. With the memories leaking out bit by bit, pieces returned to Sora. She could sense so many people in those memories. More. The shards came from several different sources. Riku's were in the jumble, too. She remembered because she had tried to manipulate his memory too, just once. She'd copied that memory into the replica, but why was the other girl absorbing Riku's memories too? What is happening? What exactly is that girl? Riku gently cradled Shion in her sleep. His head hurt and his brows tightened in pain. Why did it hurt so badly? He'd first noticed that faint headache a little while ago after recalling what Zexion had said to him. Now it was getting much worse. From bearable to excruciating. He had nearly blacked out for a moment, struggling with the worst headache of his life. What was going on? Who am I? Shion murmured, her eyes still closed. Feeling uneasy, Riku lifted his blindfold just a bit to look at her, and just for an instant, she looked like someone else. Not Kairi or Namine, but him. As the vision faded, his headache began to ease.
What was that?
Then Riku heard footsteps running on the dock. He looked up to see Roxas dashing for a portal into the corridors of darkness. We were watching the sunset together, all three of us. We promised to go to the beach. See? Here we are. Shion watched the sun sink toward the horizon. Roxas and Axel were beside her. The soft rush of the waves filled the air. We've watched sunsets like this, but I know this isn't real. I'm just dreaming about something I've wished for. Is it true that I'm not supposed to exist? She asked quietly.
Well, what do you want to do, Shion?
Said Axel. She thought for a moment. Now that someone else was asking, she could see the answer for the first time. I want to be with you two. Yes, that's it. I just want to stay with them. But I'm an anomaly, a fake. I'm unworthy of being in the organization.
Then come back to us,
said Roxas. She wished that she could. I can't. Not the way I am now. But what would it take for me to be like you? Shion wondered. Axel and Roxas had no reply. They only watched the sunset. In Riku's arms, Shion stirred. He hadn't meant to get so close or become her savior, but a nobody with some connection to Sora's memories was trying to get away from the organization, and he intended to help her with that, at least a little. Plus, he could learn more about what she was doing. He'd never expected that it would lead to them meeting on the islands of his home. Are you? She groaned. He paused for a moment, uncertain how to respond, then decided to tell her the truth.
Riku, Sora's friend.
Sora? You know Sora?
Yeah.
Riku helped Shion get herself upright. Thank you, she said. Riku replied with a slight shrug, unaccustomed to genuine gratitude from others. You saved me, but I don't know why you did.
I guess I just felt like it, he said vaguely, listening to the ocean instead. The ceaseless rush of the tides never changed.
Shion looked out at the island's tiny promontory. Riku, please, tell me more about Sora and the girl he's always with.
You mean Kairi?
Kairi, that's right. She's the one who looks so much like me.
To Sora, she's someone very special.
Riku focused on the distant horizon. Only a year had passed since the three of them talked on the beach here, and yet it felt like eons ago. It's just, I remember things about the two of them, but I'm nothing more than a puppet, something that somebody created. So why do I have these memories? What does it mean? Gazing at the sea, Riku had no answer. Do you know where Sora is now?
That secret stays with me,
he said. Why's that? Riku had resolved to answer all of Shion's questions. If she really was made out of Sora's memories, then she was a piece of him, and that made Riku unwilling to lie to her.
Shion, your memories, they come from Sora.
So you mean I'm like a part of him? Shion hung her head, staring at the waves soaking her feet.
When his memories were scattered, some of them found their way inside you. Now, Sora has been put to sleep so that we can piece together his memory. Except...
She turned then, looking up at him. You can't, because part of it is inside me. That means he can't wake up.
Yeah, that's about the size of it. But if you go with me to Sora right now, we could give the memories inside you back to him.
At that suggestion, Shion lowered her gaze for a moment. Only a moment before raising her eyes defiantly. Do you hate me for taking your friend away from you?
Nah, I guess I'm just sad, Riku replied.
Talking to her like this, Shion reminded him of Sora and Kairi as he saw her, so Riku couldn't hate her. I'm sorry, but I can't go with you, said Shion. It's my friends. They need me, and I need them too.
Friends.
The word echoed in Riku's chest. She was strong enough to be honest with her own feelings. Sora had that same strength.
Then take some time to think about it, Riku told her. Think about where you really belong, Shion.
Where I belong? She looked down at the sand. How will I know? I'm not sure I can promise you I'll come up with the right answer. Even her self-doubt was so much like Sora.
Well, the answer you come up with can't just be right for just you, said Riku. It has to be the one that works best for everybody. You and your friends, and everyone else. Just think about it.
Even as he said those words, it felt like he was avoiding the real issue. But it was still true, he thought. Fixating on the line between sea and sky, the afternoon sun was already turning the water red. I'll try. Shion gave him a hint of a smile. Thanks, Riku. He would have to make up his mind soon. Staring absently at the setting sun, Axel bit into his ice cream. What should he do? What did he want to do? It seemed like he'd been thinking about nothing else for ages. A replica, a manufactured puppet, and a nobody, a being that shouldn't exist. Axel heaved a sigh and wondered if there was really much of a difference. Nobodies had no hearts. What they had was self-awareness and sentience guided by memory. But Axel had come to wonder lately if memory directed all their actions. Was that really limited to memories from their human lives? Wouldn't they be swayed by memories of the day before, even minutes ago? Memories from when they were human were just more vivid.
What do I want to do? What am I supposed to do?
He wasn't sure that bringing Shion back to the organization would be good for her, although when he was sitting here eating ice cream, the answer seemed perfectly clear. And here came proof positive.
Hey, it's been a while.
Roxas sounded surprised to see him. Axel turned with a grin.
You think so?
But Roxas didn't have a smile in him. Axel shouldn't have expected one. Roxas sat down beside Axel as usual.
I got to go to the beach for my mission today,
he said, pausing for a bite of ice cream.
And there was this girl who looked kind of like Shion.
Axel peered at him. There was something hazy about his eyes.
But I couldn't get close enough to tell for sure. I probably imagined it. To be honest, I'm not even sure today's mission really happened.
Roxas took another bite of ice cream.
I feel like I just woke up from a dream or something.
Apparently, Shion's disappearance was deeply affecting Roxas. He kept rambling without looking at Axel.
You know how we promised one another we'd all go to the beach?
Uh-huh.
I felt like she was there today. But maybe just because I wanted her to be there.
Roxas looked unwaveringly toward the sinking sun.
I do have to make up my mind, huh? Thought Axel. Right about now.
He dragged himself to his feet and stretched.
You want to go look for her?
Huh? Roxas finally looked at him.
But Xemnas said...
Axel grinned.
Forget him. Starting tomorrow. Let's use our spare time between work and coming here to try and find Shion.
Okay, yeah, it's a deal. Roxas nodded and stood to face him, and smiled.
Maybe we will get to go to the beach together one day.
Roxas's smile had ignited hope in Axel's mind, and he rejected the doubts that followed. Instead, he chose to watch the sunset.